Everybody, it's time now for Great Day Law. Each month we like to check in with our good friend Lawyer Twilley. Well, his name is Lawyer Twilley, but we call him Lawyer the Lawyer for some free legal advice.
Yes, and Lawyer, we want to thank you so much for being here because
thank you for having me.
Yeah, happy holidays for everyone who's been celebrating Easter and Passover. We know it just passed, and it was awful, horrible accident in Newington, but also just in general, all these family parties and celebrations from this past week and coming up with graduations.
Yes.
You want to talk about, what are the rights if a guest gets injured?
Accidents happen, right?
Accidents happen, and sometimes they're purely just accidents.
Sometimes they are just accidents, but
sometimes they're not.
Right.
And most of them are preventable.
Okay.
And I think people need to understand that if you're going to have people over at your house, you have a duty to make sure that everything is safe.
Right.
Yeah.
So when people come onto your property, you have a duty to make sure that it's reasonably safe for them. So, we want to make sure that people are, making sure that things are put away, making sure that
the dog is
yes.
Unless it's super friendly. But,
yeah, because people trip over dogs and
that's a good
break
point,
bones, like if they're on the ankles, and it's just you have to be mindful, and you got to think of these things, and most of the time we float through, and we're worried about what we're preparing or going to the store, making sure everything's clean, which is great, but you also have to think about guests that you have over, especially like if they're elderly guests or younger guests, tripping hazards, dogs, those types of things.
What should you do? It would be a little awkward.
It'd be so awkward. Like if I tripped in Kara's house, I'd be like, all right, I tripped in Kara's house, I'm leaving. I'm not going to sue her.
I know, and that's a normal.
But what if there's like a lot of you're a guest and it's a loved one, but there's maybe big bills? What do you do?
Correct. And that's where you have that conversation. A lot of homeowners policies will have something that's called medical payments coverage. It's a no-fault coverage, which means it doesn't matter if you were at fault or somebody else was at fault. It's a coverage that's going to pay to help with medical bills, and most people have that on their homeowners policy. And so if you ask Kara about whether or not she has med pay, she can investigate that, and sometimes it's $5,000, $10,000. It will cover any out-of-pockets or deductible that you might have.
What if but she's going to look at me and say, my rates are going to go up if you put in a claim.
They may or may not go up. And, I used to say back in the day, there's a good chance that it probably won't go up. These days, times are a little bit different, and it could happen.
Yeah.
But
But if someone's really hurt, then I guess you also want to probably do the right thing.
Correct.
So twofold: make sure you have the right coverage. But
yes.
How do you approach it? What's step one if you get hurt at a party and it's someone you know?
Go take care of your health, right? If you have to go to a hospital, if you have to go to an urgent care, take care of that, assess the situation, and then just have a conversation with the host.
What if the guest is intoxicated and trips and falls in my house?
Well, see, that's a whole different ballgame, and that is a preventable accident, but it's not necessarily, there's no negligence necessarily on the host's part.
They'll say, you overserved me.
Well, you know what? That's not, you don't really get that here in Connecticut. That would happen, you could avail yourself of that if you were a minor. So let's say you were serving alcohol at a party and a minor got into the alcohol somehow, unbeknownst to you, and then something happened, then you'd be on the hook for a social host liability, but not with an adult.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay, all right.
I'm always worried about that. I'm like, somebody comes in, they drink too much, and they trip on my rug.
Well, I guess a lot of times people aren't even serving.
I have shag carpets in my house.
There you go. It could happen.
So anyway, so many questions, and I know your phone call to Lawyer the Lawyer is always free, and if you have a case, you might take it. If not, you might get some free advice. But either way, you can get in touch with Lawyer Twilley. You visit LALawCT.com. Also, you can even text him. Text him right now. You'll get a free consultation, 860-595-3163. The number is on the screen. You can also follow him on all the social media platforms at Lawyer the Lawyer.